A Viper Professional Training and Sport webinar. Today's date is June 20th, 2022. And this is a Monday night webinar. And the title of tonight's webinar is Mid-Band Trades Explained in Detail. And as everyone knows that's been to our webinars or our live trading room, everything that we say and do at Viper Trading Systems is for educational purposes only. Futures trading, Forex trading, any kind of financial instruments trading involves risk. Therefore, there's always risk of loss. You should only trade discretionary capital, and that is money that you can afford to lose. Nothing said in this webinar, other webinars we have, our live trading room or anything else with Viper Trading Systems, should never be construed as trading or investment advice. And as always, everyone does trade at their own sole discretion. Any questions on the disclaimer? All right, if not, we're going to go ahead and get started. You should be able to see a chart coming up on your screen. All right, I see it in my little viewfinder deal, so you should be able to see it too. All right, now, just like I teach in a lot of webinars, because I think this is really important to hammer it in, just keep hammering it in, is you got to decide what direction you're going to head, okay? Now, we're going to be looking for a mid-band or a good retracement, either way we decide to head. So what I do when I see a chart like this, let's just don't even look at the regular chart with the colored bars and everything. Let's just simply look at this. We've got support we can clearly see at 107.80, okay? That's letting you know that if they decide to start breaking that, they're probably not going to head up anymore, okay? And we've got resistance up here at 107.99, and even here at, let's see what that is, 107.97. So I'd probably say 107.99. Okay, now the rule of thumb is simply this. What is the direction, real quick, everyone, of an uptrend? I mean, just type it in. Even if you think, oh my gosh, this is so basic, it's pathetic. You'd be surprised how many people can't see a trend, you know, and that's why they end up getting in some trades that go against them. But higher highs and higher lows, exactly right. Several of you typing that in now. Okay, so if you've got a low down here, a high here, low here, a higher high, right? So that's a higher low, that's a higher low, and that's a higher high. Now they are testing a little bit lower. See where they broke this support level right here? But all they did is barely broke it so they could either fake some people into a short. Now, what we like to do as Viper traders is we're only going to take this trade if it breaks down, kisses, and rolls, okay? Now, if we happen to get a higher low and we can check a fib number and things like that, you know, I'd be looking for a trade, you know, for instance, if I was seeing this in real time, which we do all the time, I'm seeing basically 38%, there's 50% right there. It looks like they kind of tested that to me, close enough anyway, okay? So if we're gonna head up, since the rule of thumb is that we have to have higher highs and higher lows, what can we not break to continue heading up? And it's real simple. It's right there in front of your face. You can't break 107.80 and continue to head up, okay? Now they basically took out this little bit of support here, but they bounced above it. So this is a new higher low so far than way down here. Thrust, retrace, thrust, retrace. Still a higher low than down here, right? Okay, so now that we've figured out what we're going to do, we just got to look at the regular chart, okay? So we're figuring that we're going to get a trade maybe somewhere if they test this little swing right across here, okay? See that swing right there to the left? And bounce, that would be a higher low, so we would jump in that trade, okay? What if it breaks down? Now, right now, we've already said that we're actually in a little bit of an uptrend, so are we looking for shorts yet? No, not yet, okay? Now, if this turns out to be a red mid-band or a magenta mid-band or something like that, we probably will, but we've diagnosed our chart, so we know, you know, what we're gonna try to do if we get the scenario that comes up that we're looking for. And we're looking for a retracement without taking out 107.80, or it's going to head down. We've already decided that, or we're going to bounce. Okay. So now what we want to do is we want to actually look at our actual trading chart. Okay. And we can get the same thing. I'll do the same fib on it here in just a moment. All right. So let's go to our trading chart. All right. So we have a low down here, right? Okay. So let's draw that Fibonacci again from the low to the high. Now we don't know if this is our high yet because this could still go higher. But right now, what I'm diagnosing this chart is, this is my high. Okay, now if it goes up any higher, I'll adjust that Fibonacci number. Okay, but we've already decided we're not going to take a short unless it takes this out, right? So obviously, if it doesn't take this out, we're still looking for long trade. Okay, now the way I look at this trade right here is I'm looking to the left to trade the right. I see that they bounced off of a 50%. Okay, now if we're going to head up, we've got to hold this area right here. That's critical. Okay, because we've got a low, high, higher, low, higher, high. We've got a low, high, higher, low, higher, high. We've got a low, high, higher, low, not a higher high, higher low, higher high. See what I mean? So we're still stair stepping up at the time of what we're at on this chart right now. Okay, so we've got to decide where we want to get this trade. And I simply look at it this way. If this does decide to retrace, I'm going to draw some lines on my chart. We know it can't go below here. So they've already tested that 50%. Well, what if they barely broke it? So what if they tested it again, but actually touched the 50? Well, we could have a trade right here even. See what I mean? And also looking to the left to trade the right, they could possibly just bounce off of 38, but that's not a mid-band trade. Okay. Now, without it being a mid-band trade, I'm a little bit more cautious because I want this. You know, the rule of thumb on mid-bands is it's got to break mid-band a little bit or touch it. You know, at or below mid-band is your best trade. And you will also get a predictor that'll show up. Now, for y'all that have been trading Viper for a number of years, what color will the predictor be? Little quiz there. What color will the predictor be? Well, I see whites and magentas, but what color will it be now? It'll be green. That's right. Why will it be green? Anybody? Because the midband has changed. See, these predictors are made from the midband color. Okay. You know, for instance, this Phantom right here, a beautiful short, by the way, the predictors are white. Okay. The predictors are magenta at the bottom, and as it stair steps, they change, and the next predictor will be green. Okay, it has to be green. Can't be any other color but green. Now, once that green one is formed, then the next predictor will be blue. Okay, and that's what we're looking for. We're trying to get in these trades and hit these predictors and get these nice scalps and everything. Does anybody have any question on this so far? Because all I'm really doing right this very moment is diagnosing a chart. We don't know at this very moment if it's going to break this and head on down. But if it does, would you be willing to short this if it did decide to break this and then come back and kiss it and give you a higher low, or pardon me, a lower high? Would you be willing to take it then? Because if it does this and doesn't bounce off of a Phantom, because this is our established low on an ABC, you could actually get a Phantom pretty easily on this too, but that's a lightning 3. Now, when lightning 3 sets up on your chart, you got to really get concerned about it, because what that means is that took a lot to get that swing drawn. Okay, so would we be looking for a Phantom long on here? Yes and no. And the reason I'm saying yes and no is because if it breaks this by just a little bit, it might hit line 2 and bounce. But if it breaks it by this much to go to Phantom, then it's really breaking down actually. Okay, so we've already diagnosed our chart. Now let's diagnose it the other direction which is right here, and let's say that it comes down and kisses this 50, we'll just go ahead and draw that, and that will be blue on the color of the arrow, or green. Oh, let's do it blue so it shows up better. Blue's fine. All right, so we've diagnosed our chart. Now this is what we do in that room every single day, is we diagnose our charts, and we're looking to see, because we're price action traders. Okay, we're not looking for like a big swing that might roll over, based on, some pivots, for instance, or even, VWAP or something like that, because we're actually more into the scalping mode in most of our trades, because I draw on my charts. If this bounced here, where would my first target be? Anybody? If it came down here and bounced, where would my target be? Well, if it came down and didn't take out this low and bounced, I'd be looking to take some coin right there at that swing. And then I'd look to the left to trade the right, and I see another swing over here, and I would draw it. That's my two areas that I'd be looking to take coin on that trade. See there? So, and a matter of fact, if this does pull back, that's going to be a swing right there to begin with. But we already know it's a swing over here on the left. So we're diagnosing our chart, and we're going to see, sorry about that, we're going to see where this does decide to hit its head. There's a swing right through there. So if we did bounce, would that be a 10-tick trade? And the answer is yes. So I'd take that trade. Now, if it breaks here and kisses, okay, let's diagnose it the opposite way. If it breaks and kisses, like let's say it breaks this support, kisses support and rolls over, would this be a 10-tick trade? Well, if you draw on your chart, you can see the swing right there, high, low, higher, high. So would that be a 10-tick trade if it rolled over? And the answer is yes again. So we've got two scenarios here that could happen. And also, if it breaks here, where's our next swing? Well, it would be here and here. Okay, so is that 10 ticks away if it did decide to break, kiss, and roll? Yes, that's 10 ticks for sure. That's more than 10 ticks, and that's more than 10 ticks. So we've got our chart set up and ready to trade. We're only going to go short if it breaks, kisses, and rolls. Okay. And we would still have a greenback friend for a while, but that is a legitimate trade if we happen to break the high, the low, the higher high, and we break this and kiss it as resistance and roll over. And we've always got to draw on our charts to see where they're going. See, I drew this little swing right here. It's also right over here too, to the left. See it right there? A little bit larger swing, okay? Since it's right there on the swing, we'll just go ahead and leave the line right there, okay? Now, the rule of thumb is when you get a stair-stepping mid-band, we're not looking for this trade, we're looking for this trade first, okay? Because we are looking for a long at this very moment. We don't know for sure if it's going to break down, but we do know that if it comes down to like mid-band or possibly this 50% area that I drew that fib on, we're going to get ready to take that trade. Okay, let's see. You would still have the green background on the rollover, but that's okay. That's always okay if they do the scenario that you're looking for. For instance, if they barely break this, like with just a closed candle and then bounce it, no, you wouldn't short that. But what if they broke it and came all the way down like to phantom and bounced up to here and then rolled over? Then yes, you'd be looking for short. I don't like the idea of a phantom that breaks lightning 3 near as much unless it barely breaks it. Let's say, for instance, that this was close to a phantom, but it's not, it's a mid-band. So if it breaks this lightning 3 right here, then it's no longer heading up. Now let's look at some other phantoms and see if you can see the difference. Where's your lightning 3 on this particular chart as it did the phantom? Let me show you. That's kind of squirrely looking, but let's start it from here so it doesn't look so squirrely. Okay, you've got a high, you've got a low, you got a much higher high. That's your lightning 3 right there that's identified on your chart. So is that a legitimate phantom right there? And the answer is yes. Also, you have a high, a low, higher high, higher low, higher high. This is actually an area that could have easily turned into a lightning 3, and that is a higher low. Okay, even if, you know, the only time that lightning 3 changes is it's got to get a good thrust to retrace and not do all this chopping around sideways. But if you draw lightning 2 on this chart, you will see, just show you it real quick. See right here, you've got a low, a high, higher low, higher high, barely, higher low, higher high. Okay, so this is kind of the area that they're shooting for to test, right? Notice how they just tested it and bounced. Okay, so that's a legitimate phantom trade in my eyes. This one over here, even in my video that I did for the phantoms, is not a good phantom. Was this a good phantom short? Yes, it didn't take out lightning 3, it rolled over. Okay, so always remember that, and also keep in mind that anytime you get a phantom, it can be a trend change. Okay, let's see what this does. Okay, it went a little higher, so we do our fib a little different. I'll draw our fib so we can at least keep up with it. If that's our new high, that is. So 38% is right here, 50% is right here. So I'm going to draw 2 lines now that we took it out a little bit more. There's 38. That's not going to quite be mid-band. And let's look at the smaller move and see if we can get possibly a 61. Okay, this is your swing right now. So let's see if we can get a 61% or possibly 70. And that would be down here and then all the way down to here with still a higher low. Okay, so we're diagnosing this, but keep in mind, this could be a falling knife. We don't know yet. Okay, but we do know that we're going to start boxing this in. All right, I would box this pretty much right across here for right now, longs only for now. If this goes down further, I'll box it again. Bounced right off the previous 50, so we're going to box it. There you go. You just got you a trade. Everybody see that? That's the way you trade this stuff. Okay. Now, what if it would have broken here? We already decided we'd short it, but it would have to break, kiss, and roll. Okay, so where's your target on this trade? Anybody? We said a few minutes ago, it's right there. Predictor says right here. So start banking some money. You've already got 10 ticks. Let's say you did 2 contracts. You're already up $200. Could you take the coin off the table right this second? Yes, if you want to. It's right at a predictor. Will it go through it? Hopefully. But why get into a trade with like 2 or 3 contracts and let it go all the way back here? Now, this was a perfect trade setup, which we diagnosed in real time. Okay, that's the beauty of mid-band trades. Now, what's the rule of thumb? What if you missed this trade? Same rule applies. Look at your black chart. Let's go ahead and put our lightning 2 on here. Hopefully I can get it to draw without the bars. Let's see. Yeah, not quite. That's shift key. Let's see. Maybe from here. Yeah, that is our lightning 2. Let's do lightning 1. Here we go. All right. So we have a low, ABC, so-and-so, okay. It came down perfectly where we said it could, right? So we got a trade, okay. Now, what would it have to do to continue to head up? Anybody? Even if it double tops up here, it cannot take out this swing and for sure this one, because we need what to head up? Higher lows and higher highs. Okay, now if you get a double top, you got to be careful because they will take out this swing and they'll check this one again. Okay, but see, you're already taking coin on this trade. Look at your trend line. Let's just see how accurate we are on this. See if it can go ahead and head up here. Because I'm expecting, if it's going to head up at all, that it should hit our top Always draw on your charts and be ready to take coin. I don't know how many trades I've gotten into that you draw on your chart and they miss it by a tick or two, but the second they miss it and then they kind of push it, hit the button. You know, because if you don't, they're going to come down and they're going to test where you got in to begin with, you know, somewhere in that area. They do it like clockwork. Okay, let's see what it actually did. I'm curious. There we go. Redraw your little trend line. You're not out of it just yet. Now, box this right here. It's right at resistance. And get out of it. There it is, you're out. Everybody see why? Because it barely took out resistance. Okay, always draw on your charts, and you'll make more money than the guys and gals that are out there trading that are letting these things go all the way back against them. See there? That's exactly what they end up doing. Look at that. Could you box that? You're long again. Box it in. Let's go long again. Gets out of that box at all. We're going to go long one more time. Support's right here now. Same rule of thumb though. Could we draw our short if it happens to break? Well, if it did, you'd draw your little support area. You'd be red arrows on it. But has it done that yet? The answer is no, it has not. See, so we're still looking for what? Longs. Now, usually as a rule, if they test it, you got to take that coin again that next time around. Lots of times, you know, take it. You got the box, take the coin, because you may get another trade. Let's turn on our predictor. We need a higher low if we're going to head up. I would probably buy this trade right in through this area right here. It's got to get a higher low though. There it is right there. But think about this. If you actually did this trade, took your coin, did this trade, took your coin, and then did this trade and took your coin, unless it breaks down, and we'll do another different type of trade. And there you go. This is exactly the way to trade this. Notice how those predictors actually draw pretty close to where they're going to hit their head. We can get even more accurate than that with Fibonacci's lots of times. Okay? And it just makes a beautiful way of trading. Now let's look at the chart and see. I'll just leave this one just like it is, but we're going to go with the template and go with our normal template and leave all this markings on the chart and see how accurate we were at getting in that trade. Let it load. And look how we drew on our chart. Out, in, in again. Or let's say that you're just one of those that puts in one contract and you just hope and pray that it works. So you're up $300. Oh no, you're back to zero. Oh no. Oh gosh, we're back up to 300 again. Thank you. Uh-oh, we're back down to 100. Oh, now we're up 500. Does it always do that though? Not on your life. You know, do they finally get those bigger runs? This looks like it might be it because it broke resistance. Okay. Now, what would you do in a case like this if this thing just decides to go for the gusto? Well, you've only got one choice on this, and to me, this is right here. If you weren't in this trade, I'd take it on a break of that box. But I would not, under any circumstances, let it go back underneath that box. Because we already got the trade we were supposed to. And that's the whole reason that we designed our scripts to look for these beautiful retracements. Now let's check some fib numbers and see what we actually took here. I'm going to get rid of everything except that box. We'll leave the box on. We'll just take everything else off. All right, so let's look from the bottom. That's a pretty good bottom right there, so let's draw our fibs. And let's see what they actually tested. 50%, 50%, right there. Why not buy it, retrace at 108.19? You could do that also. Like for instance, if this was to come down, like on, I'll draw two areas. If it comes down here or here, yes, you could definitely take that. And the way I like to box this, see, it didn't go out of my box, so I'm going to bring my box down. Now, if it decides not to bounce here, then no, we're not going to take the trade. Okay, so it's got to kind of bounce out of that box. If it kisses, like even 16 to give an example, and yeah, you could be in that trade now. Yeah, just look to the left to trade the right. But be careful, because this is a lot easier trade to put your stop than this one. Because lots of times they'll get a high, a low, a lower high, and a lower low and take you out. So I would stay with this trade only if it decided to stay above that little candle that it just made. So yeah, that could run. That's fine too. The whole thing is you want to draw on your chart and see, as we were drawing this, we didn't know where it was going to pull back to, or if it even was. So I would have been prepared to take that on a break, but I love the check even more than that. So let's see if we can get even 19 this time around. I'd probably pretty much take that if it even bounced out of that box, or if it touches 19. Yeah, that could be a good one. See how the first one kind of faked you? It was not 10 ticks. See if this one will work. We're long. Now this isn't mid-band, but I see what you're talking about, David, on your question. This is more taking these little breakouts. We ought to have a complete webinar on this too, because what you're looking at is you're looking at your lightning swings. See, so you had a low, a high, a higher low, and a higher high. So you want them to bounce at least off of this 1920 area, yes. So in a case like that, I would probably more than likely, if I was up nicely from these other trades, I'd probably go in this trade and let them not come much lower than right, this area right here where that swing is on the left. But you could taste a little bit of heat in that case and they could break down, but it looks like it's okay. Okay. So yeah, you could keep in mind that if you don't get this trade, which you calculated out and got it beautifully on a full retrace, you got to take more chances with your trade. But if you don't let it go against you, just like we did in just a minute ago, you know, where it went up and back in the box, you get out because it tested it twice. Okay. All right. So let's see, we had 50%. Let's see, big thrust retrace. We had the 50%. I'll draw the line. Yeah, definitely bounced off 50 and bounced off the 50. Bounced off the 38 too, didn't it? They do that a lot, by the way. There's your 38%. So see, what they're actually doing when you think about the whole situation is, if they're going to get higher lows and higher highs, what have they got to do? They got to respect these lows. So they checked 50. The next time they came down to 38. Predictor drew and you took the trade. You boxed it in. Okay. Now it looks like it's just breaking up, period. So we've got to wait for some kind of a pullback before we can ever get in this trade now. Now, if you weren't in this trade right this very moment, would you take it here? No, not on your life. But could you take it here if it touched and then broke back above it? Yes, the answer is yes on that. Okay, because that's a swing they haven't tested yet. But keep in mind that the person that got in here was a lot sharper trader than the one that's going to get in here. Okay, because that's nothing but just a pivot kiss is all that is. And we don't know if it'll even work. But let's just pretend that you didn't get in it. So we're going to try that trade. Let's see if we can get it. Because what do they do all the time? They thrust, they retrace, they check. So if that hits that box and goes back out of it, we'll take a long trade. But We're not going to let them, we're not going to say, okay, we're going to put our stop way down here. Not a chance, because it's already checked that. So what do you expect if it's going to head up? Higher lows and higher highs. Okay. So if it goes back in that box, if you weren't in this, yes, you could take that trade there. Just be very careful. Now, if I get up in the morning and I see this type of thing going on and I draw my lines on my chart, I will take that trade, but I will not let it go against me if it's my first trade. Because what if this was just a barely higher high and then they took it all the way down here and took this out and checked maybe this swing that they hadn't checked yet? See right there, swing to the left, low, high, lower, low. They haven't checked that swing yet. See there? So if you do take a trade like this, make sure that you only take it if it goes your way. Okay, but that's a good point, David. The mid-band trade is what I'm going to try to talk about more than anything else tonight, though, because you can get some phenomenal mid-band trades, especially if you also check your fibs. Because I like checking my fibs, even if I eye them. Sometimes I just eye them, and they'll work out quite well. All right. See, that's a long to me. Now I'd be careful with it. See how it bounced right off support? Micro trend has not been broken, but I definitely put my stop literally just like cannot close below that candle right there. Because if it's going to be a new, fresh, or higher low, and it looks like it might, then guess what? You just did good on that trade, but you didn't let it go against you either. Okay? I like, personally, when I'm trading, I like these deeper retracement trades where they go underneath mid-band and you can box them, or when they go above mid-band, like on the short side, like this. You know, see where that took out support, so you know it's a trend change. They come up and they give you a phantom, you get in the trade. I like those deeper retracements like that. But what if you weren't up at 11 o'clock my time and you happen to see this little trade? Let me see where this was, right? Where was I? Okay, right here. Let's say you weren't up here, so you didn't get the phantom. Okay. Now let's look at this fib and see what they actually did on this, just for the fun of it. There's your high, there's your low, there's your retrace. Let's see what the fib says. Okay, so the fib said 61%. What would be our next spot to check for? 50, right? And there's your 50 area right there where that line is. And look what they did, just extend the box out. And they pretty much nailed that 50%. So see, what they're going to do is they're going to check swings also, obviously, but look at your fibs. And they checked the 61, you missed it, but you got the 50. Okay? And that would take me out of that trade when they take that swing out right there. I don't stay in a trade if they take swings out. Okay? Because otherwise what'll happen is they'll take you out anyway and give you another trade. Okay? Now, what would you do if you weren't in this trade just yet? Anybody? You've absolutely got to wait for it to pull back on top of a swing. So let's see if we can get something like that. Let's just say you missed it. Chasing it is what will really get you. You got to be careful doing that. So draw your lines on your chart. There's a swing right there they haven't tested. That's clear down to mid-band. There's a swing here they haven't tested. That's a very chancy trade right there. If you took this trade right here on a bounce, you'd have to put your stop right here. And that's still costly to me. So let's see if we can get something that pulls down and gives us a trade here real quick. Won't be a mid-band trade, unfortunately, because we already got that. Let's see, Shreeman, on your question. Let's say you took the phantom and you drew the fib. Would you put your stop above the fib? Well, one thing about putting your stop just above the fib, they'll tag it just barely. I use the swings themselves. And, you know, for instance, if you got in, are you talking about the phantom that we talked about earlier? Like this one here, for instance, or this one way over here? Yeah, if I took this trade and I saw my fib and it hit 61 and rolled over, I'd literally put my stop just above the 61, yes. But I like to put my stop at the box itself. So if I box that in, let's just go like this really happened. Okay, and you go into the trade right there, then your stop's just literally at the swing close above. And sometimes it'll get you. Okay, let's see, Shreeman, on your other question. I joined late. I have a few questions on mid-band trades. Sometimes whenever I take a trade at mid-band with bar close, the trade goes reverse and hits the stop loss. How tight is your stop loss? Because what we do and we teach is even though it hits that fib, let's look at these trades right here, for instance, that we diagnosed in real time. All right, we drew our fib, remember? We drew our fib, and that was a 50% retracement right there. So you don't really get in. Let's say, for instance, that you're one of those that just likes to jump in the second it touches mid-band. I would be careful on that simply because you'd have to put your stop under here. But since what we do is we like to look for mid-bands, but we also box in, is I already know on this trade that I know it cannot go below here because it would be a lower low. See your high, your low, your higher high. So I know that they're going to have a retracement unless they take this out, but I'm prepared to go either way, and I already showed that. But what we want to do is we want to get that trade as close to those fibs as we can, okay? And so would you take that trade on that down candle right there? No, because what if that candle just next one goes down too? Well, they could check a 61. They could do a phantom. We already talked about the phantom though. If it takes this out, they're really no longer heading up. So the next place that I would take this trade period would be if it touched this line and bounced. But you got to get a bar at least to go your way. See that bar heading down right there? What if you put your box just like this, and the next bar, if it goes up out of that box, you're in, okay? Now this happened to be an up bar, so you could be in on that bar right there as far as that goes, because it did bounce off of 50. But if a candle goes down, you know, I didn't see this. That's a dragonfly. It's kind of hard to see. If you were watching it real time, you'd probably see it, but see how it's got the bar right there? That's a dragonfly doji. But if it bounced off of like 50 right there on that swing, I would probably jump on that in a heartbeat on that bar if I could catch it. Now, since they've got those algorithmic programs running, those high frequency traders and everything, you're not always going to get that trade because that bar could have bounced fairly quickly. We don't know. It was what, just after midnight. Okay. Let's see where we're at. See if we can get another trade. We boxed that one. See, it was perfect. See how you can box those like that? Now, where would your next trade be? Well, you've got a swing right across here. There's your low side of it. Here's your high side of it right here. So the moment that bar closes above that or goes above it, you take the trade. Could you take that trade right there and consciously do it? Yes, except for the fact that you've got to be careful that they don't do a high, a low, a lower high over here and then take this out. But if they do a higher high than here, you're safe. Okay, and you already got 10 ticks on the trade. And that's all. There's another trade right there, by the way. See it bouncing off the support? I'd put my stop literally on this particular one just underneath the swing because you are getting a high, low, lower high. See it right there as we speak? Let's see if it takes it, just for the fun of it. I can do this one bar at a time. You're still okay? Still okay? You're good. So see, you could take that trade there too. Okay, but always keep in mind when it's already run 100 ticks, if you buy these support bounces here, the same rule applies. You got to keep getting higher lows and higher highs. Okay, let's see if it kept going. Oh yeah. Right on top of that swing again. Would you take a chance here even? What do you think? Yeah, let's try it. So we'll try to get it right there off that swing. Bar closes up, we're in. And it closed up. That one right there, I would have probably taken the coin off, because if I get in a trade that I'm this late and they do this right here, I get out. Because if you don't get out, maybe they'll go up here, we don't know. But would you put your stop all the way under here if you just got in here? Well, if you're up nicely, you could, but keeping in mind that if they take this out there, they could even be heading the other direction. Okay, but we're still looking for mid-band trades so far, right? See what it does. I jump back in it right there at that line though. We're gonna put our stop right there. And that's as far as we've gotten so far. Let's see what it does. Just curious. Stop's gonna be right here. Stop's gonna be right here, closes the bar. I'm out. Why would I get out there? Well, for one thing, because it barely took out that top, and that's my area that I was buying. See how I was buying it every time it hit here? Jumped up, bought it here, jumps up. If you bought it here, they took you out. So when they barely, see how these tops are high, low, much higher high, high, low, much higher high, high, low, uh-oh, not much higher high. So that's usually, as a rule, where you want to start being careful. Okay, because now they don't necessarily trend change yet, but when you barely take out a high like that, you want to get out of that trade pretty quick. All right, let's see what our fib is, if we can get a trade. That's going to be a pretty deep retracement more than likely. So let's take it from here. That's your swing thrust, and this is your swing here. So let's do this. Let's get rid of everything, and let's get rid of lightning, and let's draw our Fibonacci's. All right, so you had a big thrust to here. That's 38%. I'd be looking for a trade there. Now, this big of a move, I don't like anything less than 38%. I'm not going for this mid-band trade. I don't care. Simply because it's already had. And your Fibonacci is saying that it's going deeper. So let's go from the next Fibonacci and see what the level is. And that's a 50. So that's kind of a cluster, isn't it? So let's just draw our box there. So we're either going to go to 61, or pardon me, the 38, which was right where I drew my little box, or possibly in this area right here. Now, this is where you want to be really, really careful getting into barely popping up trades and pulling back to support. We want it now to do a retracement of some kind. The only way I would get in this trade again, if it started stair stepping again, would be if it breaks this area right here or here and then comes back and kisses it. And then we'd have to redraw our fibs too. Let's see what it actually does. I'm curious on that. It's breaking micro. See how it's got a high, low, lower, high, lower, low? It's breaking micro. We're not doing less than 38. There's 38 right there. You can box it. 50. And there's our trade set up right there. See if we can get 10 ticks. 50% bounce. Target's right there at that swing. You're already out of the trade. If it goes back in that, but you're out. Went back in the box. Everybody sees that, right? All right, now where's our next trade? Let's see here. We got 50, we got 61. That's in our shadow. I don't like that trade as much, so let's go with our fib down here instead and see if we can get something. Our 38% is still, that's a beautiful trade right there, Phantom. See how that came perfectly down to that 38? Yeah, I'd take that trade in a heartbeat. Now, what if you missed it? Box it right here then, because that looks to me like that's going to be heading up from there. So I'd box it again. Long. Not going to let it go back in the box though. Back in the box. I'm going to go one more time if it happens to take that out. Box it right here now. See where that little candle right there? So we're long again. Went back in the box the first time. We broke even. See what it does. And we're okay. We got 10 ticks. Everybody see how you can do that? Now, I show that in the room quite a bit. You remember the trade this morning on oil that just kept giving us trade after trade, but you had to buy it at support? Be sure and check your fibs because they're amazingly accurate on the way we trade. So let's look at this real quick. And by the way, if you hit the top, box this puppy in right here, because if it takes that out, you're out of that trade. Why would you be out of that trade? Because it double topped. And I don't care if it gets a higher low now and takes it on up. I just don't care. Because if they barely take out those tops, you'll usually give it all back. I've seen that a million times. Okay, so we'll look for one more trade. You want to go closer to when I open the room and everything? Box it in, no long. Now, if it takes this out, what direction? You got to have a high, a low, a higher high, and they barely did it by 4 ticks. So this has to hold on a pullback. If it doesn't hold, then guess what? You're going to change trends. And I don't normally like to take a phantom unless it takes out the previous high. And I don't care if this one goes up or not, simply because they didn't take out the high and I don't trust it. I've got support right here. If it breaks it, we're looking for shorts. Not yet. That one I probably would have taken, but not normally if it doesn't take out the high. So I'm going to wait. If you did take it, I'd take my coin right at the line if it even touches it. Now, let's diagnose this chart real quick. I'm going to pause it for just a second. Did that low hold? No, it didn't hold. Why didn't it hold? Well, they tried because they wicked it, but that still didn't hold. So now you're starting to get a high, a low, a lower high, and a lower low, a lower high here. Now we're not going to just short it if it breaks though. It's got to do some kind of a kiss. So let's draw on our chart and see what we do if it does. All right, so if they break, let's look at our, oh, we don't have our black chart anymore. Let's do our black chart again. We'll do our black chart. So let's diagnose it just like you're getting up. Just like you're getting up at, I don't know what time of the night that was. I'm sleeping. All right, let's get rid of everything on the chart. We don't care about it, and let's look at it. All right, so we're diagnosing our chart. We got a high, we got a higher high. Still an uptrend, right? Where's our downtrend start? Anybody? Only if they take that out, right? So if they do take that out, we would be looking for a break, a kiss, and a roll, okay? And then we would do our Fibonacci, okay? Matter of fact, you could do your Fibonacci now if they do decide to break, although we'd have to know where the price is to do it. So let's do it, well, let's just wait. Let's see what it does. Let me draw lightning 1 and see what this is doing so far. Okay, it broke it just barely. Let's see what happens. Breaking, kissed. That was the exact trade you were looking for right there when it rolled over, and it got you about 10 ticks. Let's see what this is right here. This is our fib. $61 is right there. Draw a trend line on it. I'll bet that's a phantom, truthfully. It looks like one to me. Now, what would our rule of thumb be? Well, they kind of got us short at resistance, but it stopped us out. So we might have gotten 10 ticks, might not. But remember, I drew that ahead of time. See the little break kiss? It kissed and it rolled, but it didn't continue rolling. So you're out of the trade. If you didn't get 10 ticks, you probably scratched on it. Okay. There you go. You just got a trade. Those are amazing, actually, to me. I watch those things all the time. You know, they don't normally get up to the 76 that I went to that webinar that time with that pro trader that's like a multi-million-dollar trader. But he was using like 5-minute charts too. So, you know, who could trade 5-minute charts? Well, he can, but boy, he lets them go against him too. Okay, so right now, yeah, you got a short trade. So let's look and see. Our Fibonacci at the time was, let's see, we had, no, we didn't have, no, we just drew on the chart. So that was our break, our kiss. So we got that, and we got maybe 10 ticks. Let's just scratch that trade and say we didn't get it. Let's just make a big old zero on it. But we did get this trade, okay? Because that's a beautiful trade. Let's see what it looks like on the actual chart. I'll bet that's a phantom. Yeah, there you go. It's a phantom. So we definitely shorted the phantom, right? We did it with the trend line, so we're still short. Where's our stop on this trade? Anybody? What's the rule of thumb for shorts? You got to get lower highs and lower lows. That didn't turn out to be a mid-band trade, unfortunately, but it still follows our rules. Big old thrust, retrace, rollover. Okay. What told us, though, that we were looking for shorts instead of longs? Anybody? It's when they start taking out this swing right across here that they had definitely done a phantom. And see, they took it out here, but they barely did. So you didn't know that was heading down. When it broke this area, though, and kissed it, see it right there, kissed it exactly and rolled, could you have gotten 10 ticks on that trade? Well, you would have probably been filled right there at 50, and you went down to 36. You might have gotten 10 ticks. Depends on how fast it was. Okay. So let's put our stop. You're getting a low, a high, a higher low, but not a higher high yet. See what they do here. What you gonna do, Bar? Are you gonna take me out, or are you gonna give me a little trade here? Draw your lightning on it. Let's see if we can hold this trade at all. Maybe not. Yeah, maybe. I'd put my stop right there. Now that it's rolled here, I probably won't let him go above this now. Right there. But see how that was a low, a high, a lower low? So all it did is stair-stepped up there and gave you a lower high again. And that's the way you trade this. You can trade this just beautifully like this. Okay? And keep in mind that you can always tell where these things are going to go if you miss a trade. You know, for instance, if they were to break this support right here, where would you be looking for a trade? A kiss and roll. So if they break this, your rule would be this. You break it, maybe check this support area, and you kiss it, and you roll, then this could be another opportunity for a short trade. Just like we did on this side over here when it was heading up like a big dog. Remember how we took these little swing areas like that? Same rule applies over here. but we got him way up here. Okay, now for this to be a mid-band trade, what does it need to do? Well, guess what? Let's look at the old fib again. Okay, now we don't know how low this is going to go, so we may not get a fib yet, but I could start drawing it. You know, we'll just draw it where it's at and just keep moving with it. And if it does decide to bounce, we'll know where our 38 and our 50 is. Now, on a small move, I don't like anything less than 50 or 61s. Okay, bigger moves, 38%. But if this keeps heading down, we'll just keep redrawing our fib until we get the trade. So we're in this one, and we're not being taken out yet. Stop's going to be right there. Turning out to be a good little trade. Stop's right there. If you head down further, we'll do the fib again. So far, our fib's from right here, but we don't know if that's going to be the case. So we'll keep drawing it if it does. There's a kiss and roll you could take. Just be careful with it. Don't let it go back above the line. See there? That's a kiss and roll type trade. Now, let's see if we can get that fib again. Let's get rid of the fib. Because where's our trade setting up? Well, if you look at this chart, let me slow this down for just a minute. If our rule of thumb is that it can't go any higher than this right here because it wouldn't be heading down anymore, then where do you think this trade is going to set itself up? Anybody? Maybe mid-band? Let's see if we can get something here. I'm going to draw my fibs. That's if it's retracing. Now keep in mind I'm drawing my fib. So we got a little bit more of a thrust, but I still like the with a bigger move like that, I'll go the 38 because that's at a mid-band. So I'm going to draw a box. And with the rule of thumb, let's look at our black chart. And I'm going to do the little lightning 2 instead. Let's get rid of lightning 1. We'll do lightning 2. All right, here we go. All right, you've got a high, you got a low, you got a lower high, you got a lower low. So what can they not take out and still head down? Well, they can't take out this swing. See it? High, low, lower high, lower low. Now, if this is actually already rolled over, then they're not going to be able to take out this swing. Let's see if it's rolled over yet. We'll do lightning 1. All right, it has rolled over. So what's the rule of thumb? Low, high, lower, low. They can't take out that swing. See there? So this is mid-band on that other chart. We just saw it just a minute ago. So where's our trade in this particular situation? No higher than here, and you want a lower high. It can even be a couple of ticks or so, but that's the trade area that I would be looking for that trade. Right there in that little box right there. Then I'd turn on my predictors and see if one draws there. Not sure if it will, but let's find out. There's a predictor, and there's your trade. See there, right below that line. What do? They barely take it out, and you box it. Now let's see where mid-band was on this trade. Let's go to the other chart, because this looks like that was a beautiful, beautiful short trade, but then obviously you got stopped out of it after that, which is fine. Okay, so let's look at the other chart. Where would you have gotten out of this trade if you got in this trade right where I drew it? When it stair steps the other direction, or trend lines. But see, when this got this low right here, and you got that candle going below that, you now have a low, a high, a lower low, right? So you got a low, high, low, higher low, pardon me. But the thing is, if they take this out, so you've got a low, a high, a higher low. If they take this out, they're no longer heading down. and there's your out right there. Everybody see that? Because you're no longer stair stepping down. Now, would you have flipped that trade? Probably. I do a lot of times in the room. Now, I don't know what it does at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm not real privy to what it does at 2 because I don't get up at 2 o'clock in the morning. But if you flip that trade, which a lot of people do, then let's look at our Fibonacci and see if we can get in another trade just in case. Got a low, we got a high. Our rule of thumb is that's a pretty good move. So I like a 38, so I'm going to draw it. You know, anytime you get a good move like this, now when you get a move like this, your Fibonacci is going to be a lot more like the 50s and 60s. This move right here, you're looking for that 38. All right, and no lower than 50, okay? And then if it did all the way to 61, well, let's just see if they get a break here first. So I'm going to box this in. It's bouncing off the 50, so I might already be in it, but let's just say we didn't. Went a little bit lower, so I'm going to rebox it. In. Scared? Not scared, but you know what I mean. Where's the stop on this trade? Anybody? Where do you think the stop is on that trade? It double topped right up here, so I'd be really concerned about this trade. So I would probably get out of it if it even crossed that line right there. So let's see what it does. Needs a higher low if not. Don't like that. Maybe it wicked it. We'll stick it out. Nope, closed down. So if it even touches that wick, I'm out of that trade. Right there. You're out. Why? Because you had a high, you had a low, you had a lower high, and it took it out. And it took out the swing to the left. Okay? Everybody see that? And keep in mind that if you just get a few of these trades like this, you don't have to just keep trading and trading and trading because it's not that necessary. Because if you would have gotten this trade over here, that's a monster. That's a $500 bill with 2 contracts. This one here that we took just a little while ago, that's a $500 trade. This little trade here, if you took it where it bounced off the swing, that might have got you 10 ticks, might not. And this little trade was $500. This little trade was beautiful, and we diagnosed it. Everybody see that? Now let's go real quick to, and I'm going to wrap because I'm 3 minutes after. So let me just wrap pretty quick. But what I'm going to do real quick, I'm going to go ahead and go to the live data for this morning, and I'm going to show you those trades that were set up. Bear with me just a moment. Only got 2 charts to load, so that shouldn't take a moment. It's loading. Now let's go back to the 2 hours that I opened the room up. Oh, let me put it on a little bit more data series so you can see the colors. I usually do this on 5,000 bars just so it runs very, very smooth, but you can't see your colors back far enough if you're going back. So change it to days if that's the case. How many of you got something out of this today? Because, you know, we scratched on a couple of trades, but we didn't get hurt. You know, now if they slap you, see, you remember when Charles got slapped this morning? That's because you literally, it blew through it. I mean, you know, if you were adding at Phantom and you were up to like 3 contracts or so, I think he was up to 4, that cost $1,000 bill. Now, did he make it up on ES? I'm pretty sure he did. But you just got to be careful, you know, when you're trading and they keep not doing what you want them to do. All right, let me show you what calls were made this morning. Eight o'clock's when I open the room. All right. Does anybody remember this little trade, little phantom trade right here? That's all you got to get. One or two of these trades. What did it do? Well, if you draw on your charts, all it did is came right up to the top. We had the line drawn, and when it doesn't take that top out, then box it in just like you're boxing in a trade, and don't go short on it, although you could possibly, but you got to be careful if they were to zap it up. But when they go candle up, candle down, next bar takes out that wicked candle even, get out of that trade, because they're not trying to make a higher low. They're trying to just hit resistance and roll over. Okay, there's a lot of traders that'll short those double tops. I'm not one that does it near as much because we teach a method of trading that I personally like, and we get in these trades and we do quite well. Okay, could you have taken that little trade right there? That was called live in the room too. So let's just pretend you just took $200 only. There's a $200 trade, a $200 trade, a $200 trade, perfect little trades, right? Then on the flip side, what did it do? Boxed in, remember that trade? We boxed that puppy in. There's a mid-band trade. What kind of a trade was this right here, from here to here? That's 61%. I'll just about bet you. Let's see if it is. 61 on the money. Those little thrusts like that, wait for that retrace to hit that 50 to 61%, and you'll do quite well. What about this trade right here? Well, let's look at the fib. That's a bigger move, so what are we looking for, everybody? 38s and 50s. What did it hit? 50. Hit 38 the first time. Could you take that trade? Yes. How would you take this trade though? You box it in, you didn't get 10 ticks, it went back in the box, so you're out. So are you going to go again? No, you got to get to the next level then. That's 50% and you rolled over. Everybody see that? And then when you get another thrust, then you draw your fib again and you saw clearly you're 61. So if you really get to the point where you trade like that, you'll do quite well. And then just don't chase these things around forever and ever, because they'll finally, get out of their mood and they'll go the direction you want to do. Look at this move in the morning right there. That was a monster. If you were up, what if you got up at 6:30 instead? Well, you got that trade maybe. Okay, they're not locked now though, are they? Charts aren't locked. Everybody see that? So get ready to take these trades. There's another phantom trade right there. But does anybody remember this trade in the room this morning? Because I showed you my actual live chart. That little trade rolled over beautifully, okay? But you remember this one here when I said we were getting a higher low? What did that trade do? It didn't do like this one. That was a beautiful rollover. What was the fib number on it? Well, check it and see. See what it was. Fib number from here to here, that's the bigger move. So you're looking for 38, and there you go. From this move here, you're probably looking for 50 to 61, and that was 61. See there? So remember, when you have the little thrust, look for the 50 to 61. When you have the big thrust, look for the 38. And this trade, you remember when Charles even said in the room this morning, gosh, I wish I'd taken oil this morning instead of, gold. Oil just went to the moon, but it had a beautiful trade even after we closed the room. Did anybody take that trade after we closed the room? Perfect phantom trade. What was the fib on it? Well, if you draw it from here, thrust retrace, I'll bet that was 50% more than likely. Let's see. And then I'm going to wrap. 50%. So what's the rule of thumb? That wasn't a real big move, 50% to 61. If it's a big move like this, see this big move like this, that's a little bit deeper. So let's draw it, and then I will wrap. Let's see what that one did, just for the fun of it. Big old thrust. There's your retrace right there, 61 again. You just can't beat them. Now, what was it from this big move, the big old ABC move? That's probably 38. Just about bet. what did it come to? A little bit below 38, but still, that was another trade that you could have looked for. Now, keep in mind, though, that the way we trade with a stair-stepping mid-band, I would have shorted this move right here and gotten that 10 ticks. Then when it changed directions, what do? We look for the 61 again, this little trade here, thrust retrace, 50 to 61. Let's see what it is. 61, a little bit deeper even, but if you go from the ABC, let's see what it is. 61. But keep in mind, this could have kept dropping, but what do? We box them in, but we look at these fib levels too. Monster trades all over the place, but you just got to get them. And if you nailed this trade that was called in the room this morning right here, where it literally just busted through your lightning threes and just took off, I showed in the room, I think I got filled just, I had drawn a box in the room, but I didn't get filled literally till right in through here. If I remember right, wasn't it 107.46 if I remember right? I don't have my data feed on here to pull it up. I'll check it and let you know in the morning. But see how you can do these trades like this? Just watch for phantom trades, Fibonacci trades, and don't be afraid to get into a trade if they happen to kiss a support level, just like we talked about. See how that thrusts up, takes out the high, comes back down and kisses support right across there, and off you go again. So you can get in a trade later if you just simply do it the opposite on shorts as you do on longs. But if you draw your lightning, they will thrust and they'll come back and check them. And if you get higher lows, they're going to head up some more. Okay, everyone? We'll see everybody in the room in the morning, and we'll do this again for real. We will more than likely, truthfully though, even though oil did a beautiful job today, gold was pretty sloppy, choppy. And we'll probably close on federal holiday that they closed by noon, simply because there's not enough traders out there. All right, thanks everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. It will be posted, and it helps learn, doesn't it, Charles V? You know, will every trade set up exactly the way you want it to? No, because if you were to build an auto trader that just simply took 50% trades, you get stopped out on probably half of them. But if you draw your fibs correctly and box them, and then they actually bounce on those areas, then yes, you can get them. Okay? All right, thanks everyone. Have a good one. See you in the morning.